Whenever you go to run a process in Hydro, whether it be a graph, table, reach or event process, a monster dialog opens, like this one, and we're going to have a look at how to drive it. The first thing is to select the data that you want to analyze. The tree control here lists all your sites, or you can work from your collection tree by clicking here. Then tell Hydro whether you want to analyze an entire collection or a single site. Let's go back to the site tree. Select the measurement you want to analyze, and that will populate these boxes. Specify the time range that you want to analyze, and I want to look at all the data there is for my site, so I can click All Data. I'm using the mouse to demonstrate, but of course you can use the keyboard to navigate the tree control and operate in the dialog box. Pressing F3 moves the cursor into the command box, and here you can type a command. For example, if I start typing clipboard, once I've typed enough for Hydro to recognize what I'm trying to do, the command will come up here. I can stop typing, press enter, and you'll see the Send to Clipboard checkbox has been selected. The N prefix turns options off, so if I want to deselect Send to Clipboard, I type N clip to remove it. If you type a command for something that's on a different tab to the one you're currently working on, Hydro will move you to that tab. Once you've made all your selections, you can use Go for Hydro to draw your graph. But wait, we've got more decisions to make before we do that. The first tab in the dialog for every process is the Options tab, and let's take a look at the Options tab for the distribution over time process. I don't want to add a label and I don't want to apply a linear transformation, so these default values are correct. You use the radio buttons to choose how the data is drawn. I want to look at a moving average with an interval of 1 month. While we're working here, let's have a quick look at the help manual. If we open Help for the distribution over time process, first we have an explanation of the process, followed by links to options that are common to most of the graphing processes. For example, here's an explanation of the label option that we just saw. Next are details on the options that are specific to this process. Anything in purple font is a command that you can use in the command box that we talked about earlier. Applying a time filter restricts the data you can see and is useful for extracting daily or seasonal information. There are separate filters for hour, day and month. To use a filter, first you need to enable it. Then tick the boxes of the data you wish to see. If we want to look at data for when Mum is watering the garden, we might select 6 AM to 9 AM. She has Sunday off, so we want Monday to Saturday, and the quickest way to do this is to click Invert, which swaps the settings of the checkboxes, then click on Sunday to remove it. She started watering in December, through January, was on holiday in February, and watered again in March. After you've looked at this data, you might want to compare it to all data, in which case you switch the filters off. Your settings will be remembered, so you can easily come back and not have to reselect them. The choices available under the Graph tab again depend on the process that you're using. The H-scale option determines the horizontal axis, which can be drawn on a linear, logarithmic or probability scale. H-min and H-max set the range of the horizontal axis, and min and max set the range of the vertical axis. From data means that the software selects an appropriate range for the data, or you can enter specific values here. There are 4 labels applied to each graph you draw in Hydro, and you can control what they say and what they look like under the Labels tab. Let's have a look at a graph over time graph with default labels. We have the site name printed on the top left, a date and time stamp printed on the top right, the measurement name and its units on the vertical axis, and a data label below the horizontal axis, identifying the trace and labelled with the site name and time range of the graph. If you want to change a label, you can enter a valid substitute parameter, and these are listed in the help file. Let's change the site name to the first synonym name. I'll just copy it from here and paste it into the field here. Or you can type a new label directly into the box. To remove a label from the graph, just leave the box blank. To change the appearance of any of the labels, click the button adjacent to the one you want to change, and here you can change the font style, the size, and other font attributes as well. The Plot tab is where you tell Hydro whether you want your data graphed in a new window or as an overplot on a previous graph. Let's draw a graph over time graph. Select our data. We'll accept all the other options, graph all the data, and go to the Plot tab. The first graph will, of course, have to be in a new window, and if you want to name it something more inspiring than Graph 1, you can do that here. You can customize the graph window size here, and if you're planning to copy it into a Windows program, it'll help reduce scaling effects if you make it about the same size as you want it in Windows. Let's draw a second graph. Select our data, go to the Plot tab, and by default, Hydro will overwrite the previous graph, but you can tell it to draw the new graph in a new window by ticking this box. Let's have a look at that Plot tab once more. Select our third set of data, go to the Plot tab. If you're doing a series of graphs and muck up one, you can overwrite it by selecting it from the list here. To draw a set of data over the top of an existing graph as an overplot, select this and choose which graph to scribble on top of from the list here. If you're graphing a collection, Hydro will draw the data from each site in a separate window. You can tick here to have the data from every site drawn on the same graph. Again, these options may differ slightly according to what process you're engaging, but that about covers it. Under the Colors tab, you can control the colors used for the graph and the appearance of the traces. You can select a color for the background from the palette here, and that's this area around the graph. You can choose a color for the inner background, which is this part of the graph here. You can specify the color of the grid lines and the color used for the axes. The default color for the data trace is what has been defined in the measurement table in Manager, and you can change it here if you want to, along with the style and the thickness of the line. You can also change the appearance of any markers that may be included on your graph. This color sequence selector is for overplots, as overplots of the same measurement from different sites will, by default, be the same color, and it's often difficult to distinguish the data. You can add new colors, remove colors, and change the order of colors used in a series of overplots.